When life altering events happens, your life plans change. Okay, they shift. And what's important to understand is that when divorce becomes the event in your life that you now have to navigate, it is very necessary for you to prepare for that. Okay, because as a coach, it would be both ignorant and very irresponsible of me to paint a false picture that everything will just fall into place by chance, meaning that with absolutely no effort of your own, your divorce transition will be smooth, easy, and organized. And that is just not how it works, not without your effort. Okay. Now, here's what I want to be clear about because in saying what I just said, I'm not indicating that deciding to divorce may have not taken an act of courage for you, despite of what people think, right? Because when it comes to divorce, it just can get a bad rap, right? Let's just call it what it is. But I've been doing this for 8 years. And out of the women that I've worked with, I've had some who made the choice. I've also had some who didn't make the choice. Their other spouse made the choice. However, those who made the choice, I'm going to be honest with you. I never met a woman where deciding to divorce was a very casual decision, right? They did not take this decision lightly, right? So that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is being an active participant in making this transition. That's what I'm referring to. It's about recognizing that while deciding may have taken an act of courage on your part, you also still need to get clear on what you need to do to prepare to ensure that you're educated and equipped. Right? That is the secret sauce. You got to get educated and equipped because being educated and equipped empowers you. It does. It empowers you to make informed decisions because you have more clarity on your direction going forward. It empowers you to be more in control over your journey, which also helps reduce stress and overwhelm. And it also empowers you to lay the foundation ahead because how you manage this stage has an impact on the tone for your next chapter. Okay. And so, what I wanted to do today is that I wanted to give you 7 strategic steps to prepare for this transition, right? So if you have made the decision to divorce and you are actually in the process, I'm going to give you 7 steps to prepare. All right. So the first step to prepare for this transition is that it's important for you to know what your goals are during this transition. Okay, that's the very first one. The very first one is to know what your goals are during this transition. When you're preparing for divorce, your goals are going to look different in this stage. All right. And as you're in this stage of the divorce process, it's important to know what matters to you most after those papers are signed. It is. Because when you know what matters to you, it guides you to making the decisions that will help you achieve those goals. When you know what matters, it encourages you to take the necessary actions that's required to reach those goals. And it also empowers you to advocate for yourself. Right? Because when you ensure that these goals matter to you, they become prioritized as well as respected. Okay. Now, here's the thing in this step you don't have to know every single goal right now. Okay. However, let's start by just setting 1 to 3 goals, right? And if you don't have three, just set one. So, for instance, maybe your goal is to maybe create a co parenting plan that works for you all's children. Right? Maybe your goal is to secure a fair financial settlement. Maybe your goal is to stabilize your mental and emotional state right now to help navigate this transition. And so I want you to ask yourself for this point, I want you to ask yourself, what matters most to me as I navigate this stage of my divorce journey? That's important. You got to ask yourself this question. Okay. And so that's the first thing. The first step that I encourage people to do to prepare is to really know what their goals are during this transition. Okay. The second step to take to help you prepare for this transition is to identify who are your key players on your team. That's the second one. The second one is to identify who are your key players on your team. Right. Here's the thing in terms of grief, divorce is very equivalent to losing a loved one. It is. But one of the significant differences between the two is the level of support you may get. Okay. Like when someone passes away, people naturally congregate, right? People naturally support you. They come over, they give you money, they call and check on you to make sure you're good. They ask, do you need anything, right? That's just kind of like how it works. But divorce may not necessarily look like that automatically in terms of support. And so, what can easily happen is that you may assume that you have to face this process on your own. And that can be a very lonely journey during this time. With all the decisions that you got to make and all the changes that are unfolding, it can stir up a lot of uncertainty. doubt, fear, to even overwhelm, right? And having these key players who are able to provide the emotional support, the practical support, to even the professional guidance can help ease some of those burdens where you don't have to face all of this on your own, right? Not to mention, by having these key players, this also helps you navigate this stage with more confidence, clarity, and resilience. It does. In one of my episodes I think I did this about a couple of years ago, episode number 116, titled Assembling the Right Team During Your Divorce. And in this episode, I listed your top four key players, right? These are the four key players that I really feel like you probably will need at some point. Right? Either a therapist, coach, or a counselor, or some form of support group, a financial advisor, a mediator, or a family attorney, to even maybe a trusted family member or friend. Okay. And so, what you want to do in this step is that you want to consider the areas that you need support in based on what your current goals are from point number one. Okay. That's what you want to do. You want to say, okay, based on what my goals are, what key player do I need to help me get there? Okay. And from there, if you already know someone, reach out to them. If you already know somebody, reach out to them. And if you don't, then that's when we want to begin our research and start connecting with the right professionals or support network to ensure that you're properly supported during this transition. Okay. Also, because this is very, very important, as you're deciding who your key players are in the areas that you need support, you want to choose people who are trustworthy. You want to choose people who are compassionate. You want to choose people who are well equipped to provide the support you need during this process, because the last thing that you need right now is someone on your team who lacks the care, capacity, or even the clarity to help you navigate this season. Okay. And so that's the second step. The second step is to identify your key players on your team during this time. All right. And so the third step to help you prepare for this transition is to collect and store your important documents in one place. That's the third step. The third step is to collect and store your important documents in one place. Okay. So most likely, whatever your goals are on number one, whatever those goals are, that will involve some form of paperwork that you will need to help you make informed decisions. And so having everything organized and in one place will help streamline your preparation for any legal, financial, or even personal discussions during this stage. All right. And so here's what we want to do. You first want to know what your organizational method is for these important documents, because it can be a lot of documents, right? And so you want to figure out what that organization method is. Is it going to be a physical folder, a physical binder, or maybe some secure digital storage location to compile your documents? To be honest with you, I would aim for the digital storage, right? Because you can take it with you. You can probably access it from your phone. It's easier to access, right? That would be my number one recommendation. However, whatever you got, work with what you have, okay? And some examples to start collecting some of these documents. So I'm gonna give you some examples. So these documents can look like marital information, right? From maybe your pre or post nuptial agreements to your marriage license, business documents, end of life plans such as will, power of attorney, trust, maybe the past 3 to 5 years of your tax returns, property records like deeds and titles for real estate or cars or vehicles or shared assets, spouse's information like their social security number or their employer details and salary, if you're able to get that information, mortgage statements, rental agreements, property appraisals, temporary custody order, a separation order, maybe even a restraining order, insurance policies, home, auto, life, health insurance, your accounts and passwords, things like your login information for your personal email to even your bank accounts. And I suggest, to secure privacy, you may want to update those passwords, okay? To even your credit report and also your children's information, their social security, their birth certificate, medical records, maybe a detailed list of those expenses like medical, dental bills, recreational activities, school fees. Like these are the things that we want to start collecting. Now, I know this may sound like a lot, because it can be, especially if you don't have a lot of this already. However, you don't have to get it all in one day. Okay. But what I do suggest is that you start gathering these documents as soon as you can, because some of these may take time to find and collect. All right. Now, you can also do this. Remember, I talked about your players on your team? Point number two, who can help you? Maybe you have a trusted friend that you can say, you know what, I need help getting this done. Could you help me? Right. And this is a trusted friend. And if you have that, let them know that you need their help. Okay. Now, for those who saying, I got to write all this down, listen, I got a whole free document on everything that I'm talking about. All right. And so if you want to access that document, you can go to tanyacarter.com/blueprint. And in that blueprint, everything that I'm giving you today is going to be in that blueprint. All right. And I'm also put it down in the show notes. All right. So that's the third thing. The third thing is that you want to now collect and store your important documents in one place. All right.
When it comes to dissolving a relationship, there are many layers to navigate. The financial responsibility shift, creating an effective co parenting plan with the other parent to mitigate or even reduce conflict, adjusting to new living arrangements, navigating legal matters. Or what about your emotional healing and personal well being afterwards? To even establishing a new normal for yourself and even your family, to even planning for your next chapter and rediscovering your identity. And with each layer comes with the weight of making decisions. And here's the thing, you don't want to just make any decisions. You want your decisions to be deliberate. Okay. And why does this matter? It matters because every decision that you make shapes how you design your next chapter going forward. And one of the things that I realized is that when you're faced with countless decisions to make, it can create overwhelm, confusion, stagnation, to even making a decision that wasn't even given much thought, only to regret that decision later. And here's what I want you to do really quickly. I want you to take a deep breath, close your eyes, and ask yourself this question. What are two main areas in my life where I can use some guidance and an effective strategy so that I can thrive in those areas? And how will my life transform once I address those areas? And so over the next couple of months, I will be offering my one-on-one 90-minute strategy intensive for those who are ready to take the next step. And this is where you and I will work together on two major areas, and you will leave this intensive with a solid plan that will help you reach your goals. Now, slots are limited, okay? And so if you know that this is perfect for you to start getting unstuck and to start making some deliberate decisions for your next chapter, then head over to my website at tanyacarter.com/strategy, okay? That's tanyacarter.com/strategy, and I will put the link down in the show notes.
So now the fourth step to help you prepare for this transition, the fourth step is to now collect and store your financial documents in one place. All right, that's the fourth one. The fourth one is to now collect and store your financial documents in one place. This point is very similar to the last one in terms of paperwork, but the focus here is on gaining a clear understanding of your financial situation. Right? We got to know what we got going on. And organizing these documents will help you lay the foundation for achieving financial independence after your divorce. Okay? And so you want to do the same thing. You want to know what that organizational method is. Maybe it is a physical folder or a binder or a secure digital storage location. Y'all know I aim for that. But whatever we got to do to get this done, let's make it work. All right. Now, some of these financial documents can include things like maybe inheritance records, documentation of inherited assets if this applies, mortgage debt, or even home equity loans. So you want to get the statements of these balances, the terms, as well as the payment history. Loans, any auto loans, student loans, personal loans, credit card balances, bank accounts, any recent statements for the checking, savings, and even joint accounts, any cash on hand. If you have a health savings account, check the current balance as well as the transaction history, insurance policies, home, auto, life, health insurance, and also all retirement accounts, right? All the statements, all the information on every retirement account that you have. And again, I said this on the last point, but I'm going to say it again because I really want to reiterate this. For all your personal accounts, you need to update your password to ensure privacy and security. You do. And you want your passwords to be strong. You want them to be unique, and you also don't want to share them. Okay? Do not share your passwords. Okay? And so again, I got all this in the document. If you go to tanyacarter.com/blueprint, if you access that document, I have a list of all of this. All right? And so that's the fourth one. The fourth step that you need to do to prepare for this transition is that you need to collect and store your financial documents in one place. All right. And so the fifth step that is important, the fifth step, and this is for my parents, okay? The fifth step is to prepare for parenting transitions. Okay. That's the fifth one. The fifth one is to prepare for parenting transitions. One of the things that shift when you divorce is the way you co-parent and manage responsibilities for your children. Okay. And so in knowing that, what's important in this step is to provide stability and consistency for your children during this change. So, a few things on what this could look like could be open communication, right? Changes are happening, and it's important that your children feel informed as well as reassured. So, this is what we want to use maybe age appropriate language to explain this transition. And you also want to avoid unnecessary and adult level details. Right? Your kids don't need to know all the intricate details of what's going on. That's not what we need to do here. Okay. And we also need to reassure them of your love and commitment to them and let them know that they are not to blame for the divorce. Okay. Kids need that reassurance and also allow them to express their feelings and concerns and ask questions because it is an emotional time for them. Because here's the thing, although you all are no longer with one another, they still love the both of you. They do. And so it can look like that kind of open communication. It can also look like establishing a routine. All right. Here's where we want to maintain some sense of normalcy, right? Because that helps with a level of stability and security. So when I'm talking about routine, I'm talking about maybe their morning routine, their meal times, their homework times, their bedtime routine, any extracurricular activities. Let's keep it small and simple, but the end goal is stability because that stability provides some form of comfort. It helps reduces anxiety. And in the long term, it can have a positive impact on their well being. All right. It can also look like collaborating with your co parent. Now, listen, here's the truth, y'all. You and the other parent may not be on the best of terms, right? I'm not even gonna act like that's everybody's situation. And you know what? I'm gonna do a podcast episode on that too, but it just gave me an idea. However, here's what's important in this step. The goal is to prioritize your children, and so in saying that, it's about now saying I'm going to keep my child in the center and not the middle, right? That's all what I'm saying here. And so, what this means is that you want to do what you can and what's in your control. That may look like using respectful language to minimize conflict. It may look like setting a realistic visitation schedule. It may look like having to text rather than talk over the phone because it just really all depends. It's not a generalization across the board. It really is unique to people's situation. So it may look like texting, it may look like email, it may look like using a co-parenting app to help streamline the communication so that it is primarily focused on the children. And so the question is, what can you do to support your kids and keep them at the center? Maybe it is establishing that routine to keep that stability and consistency going. Maybe it looks like scheduling some time to just stay connected and having these conversations with your kids. It can also look like reaching out to the co parent and maybe discussing a meeting to have some visitation scheduling intact, right? And here's the thing about this point. When it comes to a co-parenting relationship, these dynamics take time. They do. And I'm going to also be honest. Some people can never get to a point of effectively co-parenting for many reasons. And I probably do a episode on that, but that is another truth as well. However, here's my advice. My advice would be to control what you can by remaining consistent and child-centered. That's it. That's all you can do. Do what is in your power. And so I actually did an episode probably about 5 or 6 months ago. It was podcast episode 180, Breaking Up Without Breaking Your Kids, 7 key parenting mistakes to avoid. And I'm going to put that down in the show notes because I think it can be a helpful listen for you during this time. And so that is number 5. Number 5 is to prepare for parenting transitions. Okay. And so the sixth step that you need to take to prepare for this transition is to incorporate self care. That's the sixth one. The sixth one is to incorporate self care. With different parts of your life changing and unfolding at the same time, taking care of you can easily take a back seat. And you need all the energy you can get right now to manage your life changing. You do. You need energy to make informed decisions about all the logistical adjustments. You need to have the physical strength that's required for the daily tasks and responsibilities. You need the energy to avoid burnout. And you also need the energy to be present and supportive for your children. And so, having some simple self care techniques can help you recharge mentally, it can help you charge emotionally, and it also can help you recharge physically so that you have the ability to manage this transition as well as you can. Okay. And so, some examples on what these simple self care techniques can look like is that it can look like maybe 15 to 30 minutes daily of just maybe walking. Maybe journaling, maybe reading, maybe some form of meditation. It can look like adequate sleep. Okay. And what this means is setting a consistent time to go to bed to get enough quality rest. And in order to do that, you might need like a night evening routine to help you wind down to do that. So it can look like turning off your phone or TV, like all screens, laptops, everything. It can look like having maybe a cup of herbal tea. It can look like reading to maybe even journaling. Another technique can look like giving your body the nourishment it needs. Okay. So staying hydrated during the day, fueling your body with the foods that your mind and body work well on. Another technique can look like incorporating an activity that will help you charge physically, mentally, and emotionally. So it can be stretching, yoga, breathing exercises, cardio, walking, anything that can get the heart going is very, very good. Another simple self care technique can look like setting boundaries with people right now. Right? Because when you're going through a divorce, you're going to have some folks, right? That's what it is. You're going to have some folks, y'all, that really want to offer their unsolicited opinions. Not to mention that you can also have exchanges with your ex where your emotions are high. They run high. You understand what I'm saying? And this is when you need to set the boundaries that will protect your energy, that will help reduce conflict, and it will also keep you focused on making clear decisions. And so, what this can look like is let's just talk friends and family right now. You can be kind but firm. You can say something on the lines of, "Thank you for your concern, but I'd rather not talk about this right now." Right? You can say, I respect your opinion. However, I'm handling it in a way that feels right for me. Okay. Now, let's talk about the ex. What could that look like? Let's keep the conversation child centered only, right? If you all have children, keep them child centered only. Avoid those conversations where you know nothing will get accomplished or resolved, right? It'll just be a lot of back and forth. It'll be a lot of cycling, right? Minimize verbal communication if necessary, meaning that we can use these other methods like email, text, a co parenting app for a more structured communication. Or even let's talk about yourself. What boundaries do you need to set with you? Well, maybe you need to give yourself permission to say no to individuals, situations, or even commitments that are parasitic to you. You also may need to step back from certain commitments for a while, right? It's not that they're bad, it may not even be parasitic. It just may be a season where you can't give it the attention it requires. And so, the question that I want to ask you in this point is what boundary can you incorporate? What self care routine can you implement? All right. And so, that's the sixth one. The sixth one is to incorporate self care. All right. And so, the last and final step to help you prepare for this transition is to take your first immediate one. That's the last one. The last one is to take the first immediate step. You know, earlier I stated that everything will not fall into place by chance. Remember, I said that. And so, with that being said, an intentional, immediate, actionable step needs to be taken. It does. And why immediately, right? Again, that means a level of urgency because taking that one step builds momentum, right? It boosts your confidence and you become more educated, you become more equipped, and you become more empowered in your journey ahead. That's why this is important. And what does taking that first immediate step involve? All right. Well, it first looks like identifying what that step is. Okay. So let's just go back to number one. Point number one, I said identify the goals that you want to accomplish during this transition. Okay. And so, based on those goals, what action can be completed to achieve that goal? So, for example, if your goal during this time is getting in a better mental and emotional state, right? Let's just say that's a goal. Then a step can be to find a therapist or a coach that specializes in divorce to help you. Okay. If your goal is to have a consultation with a divorce attorney, then maybe you can research and reschedule a consultation with a lawyer. All right. And so now that you have identified what that immediate step is, let's commit to it. Let's set a date. Okay. In other words, what time and date will this be completed? And so what this means is that you need to set a date and time on your schedule and keep it manageable, whatever it is to help reduce overwhelm, right? Now, once we set a date on that, and once we get it done, let's acknowledge the step that we're taking to get there. That is so important. I'm so huge on this because sometimes it's so easy to look at how much needs to be done. You can be looking like, oh God, I got so much to do. And when you're looking at it like that, you will overlook how far you've come. And here's the truth, you do not want to minimize the steps you're taking. I tell my clients this all the time. You don't. Those micro steps determines the macro. They do. And every step you take is a step closer, and that's important. And so once you do that, you want to repeat the process. Okay. And that means we want to keep revisiting those goals during this time. And we want to say, okay, what is the goal? What date do I need this to be completed? How, let me acknowledge that this got done. Okay, what's next? Right. And so when we keep doing that, you're going to be proud of yourself. When you keep doing that, you're going to feel more equipped. When you keep doing that, you're going to feel like I can advocate for myself now. When you keep doing that, you're going to be more educated and empowered. And that is where it begins. I know a lot of people might think that this isn't because we can easily kind of just see all what's happening. But let me explain something to you. There are phases and stages to this thing. And if you're in this stage, this is how you prepare, right? This is how you prepare. And as I mentioned before, if you want the blueprint, I got the entire PDF. If you want that document, go to tanyacarter.com/forward slash blueprint, and I will send you that blueprint. Okay. And so these are the 7 steps to prepare for this transition. When you, because here's the truth, I know there's a lot of things that's going on in your head. There can be a lot of emotions in your heart. And sometimes with all the things that are going on, it's hard to really think clearly. It is. I know that to be very accurate. And so what we want to do is that we want to have some form of structure to help, right? I know you're thinking about all the things, but let's just start with these steps. And in these 7 steps, everything will start coming together in due time. Okay. So please make sure that you are following me on my social media handles. My Instagram and Facebook is Tanya Carter. My YouTube is Tanya Carter. And I will put everything down in the show notes. And also, please make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast. If you're on YouTube, please go to my YouTube and subscribe where you will receive notifications on when the next episode will drop. And also leave a review. If you know that this podcast has been helpful for you on your journey of navigating divorce or even a breakup, please head over to Apple and or Spotify to leave a review. And last but definitely not least, share this information. If you know somebody who's going through the divorce, has made the decision to divorce, but do not know those next steps, then share this episode so that this can be a blessing for them in this season. All right. So thank you all again for tuning in with me this week. You all have a wonderful and an amazing week, and I will see you next time. Take care.